Yeah, morning, people. What's good? 12th man's back. Hope you're all good and going to be looking forward to a chilled out weekend without football. Enjoy the summer, people. Trust me, because it comes around pretty quick. There's a lot to talk about transfer wise, but luckily, we're not going to be ranting and raving too much about Arsenal winning, losing, whatever it be, because it's the summer. We can relax now. I don't know what's going on with my lighting, so I'll try and sort that throughout the stream. But big up to Rory and Babs in the house. It's been too long, boys. How are we feeling? You good?
Yep, all good, all good. Nice to be back on. Appreciate the invite as always.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on, man.
likewise.
Yeah, you two welcome anytime. You know that. So big up to you guys and big up to everyone in the chat. Make sure you do me a favor, hit the like. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you are following both Babs and of course Rory. Rory talks football and just put in Babs. You'll see him everywhere. He's all over the place. So big up to you both and big fan of both of you. Love what you do. So keep smashing it. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe and make sure you're following Match Bingo. A link is in the description in the live chat or just scan the QR code. Make sure you've downloaded Match Bingo. All you need to do is credit £5 and you can play. It gives you a match card, gives you a bingo card, and you do absolutely nothing else. Automatically, they will be ticked off for you during the games. And I know the football season has finished, but there's plenty of football, trust me. You've got the Women's Euros, you've got the Nations League, and of course, you've got some of the pre-season stuff coming up. So please make sure that you are involved in Match Bingo. Guys, there's been some news, some Arsenal news. And to be fair, it's not a signing, but it kind of is a signing, if that makes sense. The news is that Gabriel Magalhaes has signed a new deal at Arsenal. Now, I, for one, am massively happy with this one because he's one of my favourite players. I think he's been unbelievable for Arsenal. I think he is probably, in my opinion, Arteta's best signing. I know that he's made quite a few now, but for me, I think this one has absolutely banged. And for 27 million, it's an absolute steal. Now, I was a little bit concerned and maybe worried that Saudi might be able to tempt him. But it does look like now it is signed, sealed and delivered. You can see there Mikel Arteta and Andrea Berta signing with Gabriel. This is massive news. What's your raw reaction to this one, Rory?
Yeah, buzzing. I think he's such an important player for us. Yeah, and like those Saudi bids, you know, I was hearing things like they were offering to triple what he's on at Arsenal. And he's always been the guy. Like he was kind of the first guy that fully invested in like what the project is now. And I saw some stats this morning, like since he joined Arsenal, he's of all Premier League defenders, he's scored the most goals, kept the most clean sheets. And there was another stat in there as well. So yeah, unbelievable. Like it's so important to keep him and Saliba together for as long as we can. So the next one to do is Saliba, but the club have massively improved when it comes to actually keeping players. Like how many players did we lose on like low or on a free because we'd let them run it down? And yeah, it's good to see that we're not letting that happen anymore.
No, man, I think he's probably... Is there an argument, Babs, to say that in the last 2 seasons or certainly in the last 18 months, he's actually been better than Saliba and been as important as a player as him?
I think he's been better. I think I'll say that categorically as well. Not like Saliba's been amazing, by the way, but it just shows the standard of Gabriel that I can sit here and still comfortably say that I think Gabriel has been slightly better. And it makes sense because he's slightly older, 27, you know, those mistakes that he was making when he came into Arsenal, when he was Saliba's age now, you know, it's kind of gone now. I remember like, 22, 23, we were talking about maybe replacing him because he was making those mistakes at the start of the season. There was that game against Fulham where he scored, but he made a mistake prior to that. But it just shows, you know, with defenders, especially centre-backs, more time you give them, the more experience they get, they're going to grow as players. And that's why, you know, when a player is like 22 and they get written off, and I'm like, just give them a couple of years, you know, centre-backs, it's a mainly experienced game nowadays. So yeah, for me, Gabriel, I'd say has been better than Saliba last season as well and the year before that. But that's no mean feat because Saliba's also been fantastic. So, but yeah, he's been very consistent.
Yeah, he has been, man. I know people said we didn't miss him because Kivior was really good, and I'll stand by that. I thought Kivior was excellent, to be fair, at the back end of the season. But we did kind of miss him in terms of his threats, particularly from set pieces. I think offensively and defensively, Gabriel has been phenomenal for us. And there was a stage where, like, you get a corner and you're just looking at him. Like, I was at games at the Emirates just staring at Gabriel. Like, I didn't care where everyone else was. I was like, where's this guy? And for me, there was a lot of the opposition that were doing that. You could see they were like, right, try and mark your guy, but he's the one that is the threat. And that for me is very, very difficult to defend against, you know, as a team. So him staying is absolutely key. But do you think, Raw's right, that potentially this first signing here could actually be pivotal for the others signing as well? Because I look at Saliba, that's the one that I have question marks over. I think Saka I've got no doubt that he'll stay at Arsenal. I truly believe that he loves it here. I think the others, maybe Martinelli will come on to in a bit, but certainly Saliba, there's definite rumours around surrounding Real Madrid. I've got no doubt he'll probably play for them one day. I just hope that he's towards 30 as opposed to now when he does. Do you think now Gabriel's signed, there's more of a chance of Saliba staying alongside him?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those things, and like I don't know fully because I've never been in that situation, but you do hear about those sort of situations where when one player signs, it helps progress the others in those talks. So if that group know that they can stick together, like I was thinking today, he's just signed a 4-year contract. He's 27. So like in 4 years' time, he'll still only be 31, and he'll be, assuming Thomas Partey's moved on, like the oldest player in that squad. And that shows like where the whole group are at. And I think a lot of them are probably looking at it going, we can commit to another contract, see through the next 2-3 years, and I'm still in a position where I can make a big move anyway. So yeah, I do hope that it's the first domino. Like you said, Martinelli's a bit of a different one because I don't think we've actually offered him a contract yet. But no, it's definitely a good sign.
Yeah, I think with Martinelli, I didn't realise this until a few days ago that there's another option to extend for another year on his contract. I didn't realise that. So I suppose with him, he's probably the least of the priorities. And there's also rumours about what his future looks like. But we'll come to that. Babs, what are you saying about Saliba and Gabriel together now? Because for me, if I'm Saliba and I'm looking at Real Madrid, and even if maybe his head isn't turned, right? But even if my head was slightly turned, I'd be like, yeah, but this partnership, I can build on this, and I'm still quite happy here, and I haven't won anything here yet. And Gabriel is now committed long term, and he's older than me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, does that make a difference to Saliba's sort of future now?
100%. You know, they're very good friends. So like, if you're playing with your friend, it's one thing, but when you're top level as well, and you probably are one of the best centre back partnerships in the world, you know, top 2 in the Premier League at least. I think you want to stay there and you want to win trophies. You know, you want to show the centre back partnership as one of the great Premier League ones, and to do that, you have to win a title, but you have to stay at Arsenal. But I kind of agree with that in the sense that I think Saliba will play for Real Madrid one day. I say that annoyingly, but I just feel like when he arrived at Arsenal, he just had something about him where I thought Real Madrid are the biggest club in the world. Let's just not deny that. And if they come calling for a player, we've seen it with Liverpool, academy player, scouser, come through 20 years, and he's just gone like that for free. But it's more a matter of winning with Saliba and keeping his best years at Arsenal. So I think for me, I'm kind of confident that he'll sign one more deal, one more contract cycle, and then prior to that, when he is approaching maybe 27, maybe leaves Arsenal then. But yeah, I think Gabriel being there will help him out. And also the fact that Arteta's there as well. A lot of these players, they've committed because they believe that Mikel Arteta is the manager, and they trust in his process. So I think it is a massive part, and I'm confident to say we've got 2 of the best centre backs in the world. You know, when Mikel arrived, we had Mustafi, Luiz, Holding. I was just like, bro, every single year just sign a centre back, and now we've just got 2 to the point where we let go of Aiden Heaven, who's done very well at Man United, and no one really cared. But yeah, I definitely think even when Kivior was playing instead of Gabriel, we missed Gabriel massively. So now that Saliba will have him back next year, hopefully fully fit for the whole season, hopefully we can win some silverware.
Yeah, look, I think it's clear that they're the best partnership in the world, like defensively. They might not be individually the best defenders in the world. I mean, a lot of people will throw Van Dijk back at you, and maybe Rodrygo, and maybe some other names like Bastoni. But in terms of an actual partnership, I do think it's the best in the world. I don't see another partnership like that. And that for me is something that we've absolutely got to keep together for as long as we can. Now I've got no doubt now that Gabriel, he was actually the one that I did question the most, actually, funny enough. I actually thought there was more chance of Saliba signing because there was a lot of rumours about Saudis, and he was sort of tempted, apparently. I mean, it just goes to show how rumours are just rumours, really. But that's all that they were saying, was that his family are really set on Saudi and it would be an unbelievable life-changing experience. And let's be real, lads, that ain't a lie. Like, it would literally change the whole of the way that he lives, the way that he sets up, the way that he sets the future of his family up. So I've got a lot of respect for Gabriel, really, because it proves that he's actual properly committed to Arsenal. And I've got to ask the question, and I don't think a lot of people like talking about this, but I think it's actually a valid one. Do you think he could take the armband? I'm not saying that he will. I don't think he will. But do you think he could be like the captain of Arsenal? Because yeah, like Ødegaard, I think is going to remain as captain personally. But I love Gabriel as a leader, man.
There's multiple players in the starting 11 that if they got the armband, I wouldn't say no. Rice, Gabriel, Saka. There's a lot of players there, so that's a good thing to have. That just proves that we've got leaders. You don't have to have the armband and walk out first in the tunnel to be the leader of the club. And it just shows that you want to have multiple players that are big personalities behind the scenes. And I think Gabriel's grown in that. A couple of years ago, it was maybe when he signed for Arsenal a bit shy, maybe didn't know English at the time, wasn't a key player. But now it feels like he's a big presence behind the scenes. So, if he was a captain and he captained Arsenal tomorrow, I wouldn't mind it. That one thing I'll say is, with Odegaard still there, until he gets dropped, I don't see him captaining Arsenal anytime soon. But, I don't mind that. You don't have to have an armband to be a leader on the pitch. So for me, I just don't really see it as that important for him to be the club captain if he's a leader anyways.
Yeah, look, I know a lot of people laughed about this, Rory, when Emery said about the 5 captains thing. I actually didn't mind it. Now, and it wasn't because I think there should be 5 captains. I think what he was trying to say was there's 5 leaders in this team. One of them's the captain, the others are the leadership group. I didn't actually mind that. I think the way it was kind of interpreted was a bit silly, and everyone was saying, what? So we haven't actually got a leader then? We just got 5 people that share the armband around. I don't think that was what he was saying. I actually don't think much has changed there. I think that, Saka has shown that he can wear it. Jesus and Jorginho is wearing it in terms of their experience. Obviously, Gabriel and Rice are the 2 that I would be giving the armband to in the vice captaincy. I don't know where that leaves Odegaard, because I see Odegaard as more of a role model to people, or somebody that is that kind of example set in the dressing room. I know he leads by the press in terms of leadership on the pitch, but I don't see him barking orders or pointing fingers. And for me, I never really have seen him as a captain personally. But Gabriel and Rice, I think I look at them and they're like old school leaders, if you get me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it depends kind of how you define a captain. Like, we don't know what Odegaard's like behind the scenes. We hear little bits about, he's the sort of guy that puts his arm around your shoulder if you're down. He can bring you up. He's a great role model for the youth players. So, yeah, it depends. If you need the guy that's wearing the armband to be the guy that's shouting, then you probably want it to be Rice or Gabriel. But I think almost not having the weight of the armband for those players can be beneficial for them as well. Like you've seen at other clubs, sometimes you look at a guy and you're like, oh, he's a leader. But then when he actually puts the armband on, that kind of pressure can almost become too much. And I'd quite, especially with Gabriel, I kind of feel like he's the kind of guy that maybe wouldn't handle that pressure quite as well. So I could see Rice wearing it. But yeah, I think I don't think it matters who wears the armband, to be honest, as long as you've got the leaders. The one thing you don't want is to be like, I remember at times looking at like Chelsea this season, where you look at when they were struggling in mid-season, you're like, you don't look at that team and see a single leader. That's the situation you don't want to be in, which we're not.
Well, look, there's a lot more players that we have to get signed up, Babs. Thomas Partey's one mentioned, Gabriel Martinelli we mentioned earlier, and Saka and Saliba. Give me a breakdown of those players in terms of your kind of likelihood of them signing or staying on, because Berta's got a big job there, like straight away.
I don't really have many doubts, apart from maybe Partey and Martinelli. And I think Martinelli is more of a sense of, I think we're going to sign a winger this season. And I reckon that will be a starter going forwards, and then it becomes a question of how many minutes does Martinelli play. I think Trossard's maybe 1 year away from leaving. I don't think he leaves this summer, just to keep the depth, especially with all the pressure going into next year. But Martinelli's a player who I think they're going to maybe use the extension when the time comes around and see what offers arrive, unless he can make a turnaround, unless he can transform himself as a player and become a starter once again. Partey's another one where I think it all depends on what's he willing to accept. Are you going to accept less wages? I don't think he'll be a starter next season, but it'll be good to have him around. The one issue I have with Partey is people be like, okay, keep him as depth. Partey for me is a player who needs rhythm. He needs to be starting week in, week out to be in the flow. Hence why when he comes back from injuries, we've seen him struggle quite a lot to pick his form up initially, but after maybe like 10, 15 starts in a row, you see the best of Thomas Partey. I don't think he's like a Jorginho type where he can come off the bench and have an impact like that. But I think, just for the safety alone, you probably keep him for 1 more year, especially with all the money we're going to spend going forwards in attack. Let's not overcomplicate it. If you go for attackers, get the attackers in first. Then, with Thomas Partey next season, find a proper replacement. We've already got Zubimendi coming in, so that's your first replacement in. And then it's a matter of maybe going for more experience. So, I think Partey and Martinelli will stay for this window. But contracts-wise, I think Saka and Saliba and co will sign their deals. At least 1 more for sure. And then it's about winning next season, bro. We need to win that title.
Yeah, absolutely.
The big 2 for me are Miles and Ethan, though. Like because they out of contract next summer, and there are people obviously sniffing around. So I think they're 2 of the ones that, like, again, especially not so much with Lewis-Skelly, because I think he's obviously had an unbelievable amount of game time this season and is definitely part of the plans. I think Ethan, the way we manage him next season is going to be fairly crucial when it comes to tying him down. And one thing I was looking at as well was like last time Saliba and Saka signed their new contracts, we went and signed Declan Rice. And I do wonder if Gabriel committing, like I hope at least, he's been told that we are going to be ambitious this summer and that's one of the reasons he signed. So hopefully that's a good sign. But yeah, Miles and Ethan, hopefully we do this summer too.
Yeah, we've got to get them both signed up. I mean, they both look unbelievable in my opinion. I don't think Ethan's been given as much of a chance, but certainly when he has been given those chances in the cup games and some of the other opportunities in the Premier League, he's absolutely smashed it. I mean, goals against Brighton and Manchester City, and in the cup games, I thought in the Carabao Cup he was easily our best player, like levels in that tournament. So both of these two are massively key as well. Let's start with Partey very quickly, because this is the one I am actually worried about. Now, I know and understand that Zubamendi's coming in, but is there an argument to say that if Partey and Jorginho were to both go and Zubamendi was to come in, not only would we be short, we potentially got weaker in that area? I don't know what you boys think.
100%. You're losing two experienced players as well. And we've talked about this team still being very young. You look at Liverpool last year, like their best players are still over 30. And that plays a part. These players have experience. You can lean towards them tough moments. So losing Partey and Jorginho would be massive. I do believe in that point you have to sign a player. Even if it's a short-term backup at one point, you can't let go of two experienced players and not replace them. But that's why I think they're going to keep Partey for one more window. They're going to, hope him for one more year and then see, what happens next summer. Let him go on a free transfer. And then when you've got more time to spend, on midfielders, maybe find a youngster. Or maybe Miles can play there as well going forward. So, but I don't think we can let both go.
No, I agree, man. DG, Dulu did in the house. What are you telling me, bruv?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Morning, lads. I'm happy to be here, man. Sorry for my tardiness, as you know, but we're here, man.
Nah, it's calm, man. I know you've been on Harry's channel talking football, and to be fair, we're probably going to be repeating some of the stuff that's happening because Arsenal have been busy with Gabriel signing. We're just talking about the other players that we're hoping can follow suit. What's your thoughts quickly? Give me a roundup on Gabriel signing and some of the others that I think Andrea Berta's going to be busy with now, man. Saka, Saliba, Martinelli, Partey, they're all running down, man. What are you telling me?
I mean, obviously all the talk and the chatter of all our Arsenal platforms and every Arsenal fan's going to be about incomings for obvious reasons, but keeping our good players, keeping this group is obviously equally important. And I think everyone would agree we need to keep Magalhaes, potentially our player of the season, big game player, one of the best centre-halves in the league and in the world, part of a great partnership. We hope his friend Saliba signs a new deal. Over the moon, man. And obviously, like if it's come out today, then it's been done a long time ago. And I'm happy with the speed in which Berta's got this done. Like there's been previous years where these kind of things will drag out. Things like this will drag into the season. We've seen many a transfer saga. So I'm happy with Magalhaes, man. Let's start as we mean to go and hope there's more good news to come, lads, innit?
Yeah, man.
Simple,
I mean,
that.
the one that worries me, I'll come to you on this, Rory, as well, is Partey, because I do think he's been so important this season. And I appreciate Zubamendi's coming in. But if you're not going to have the backup to Zubamendi, unless, of course, it will be Rice, I feel like Partey is a definite stay for me if we can keep him. Now, I understand he's getting older. I understand he's on a lot of money. But I think for a year with another option of extending for 200 or whatever he's on, I think we've got to do it, Rory.
Yeah, it's what I don't want to do is lose Jorginho and Partey, bring Zubamendi in, and we can be like, yeah, look, Zubamendi looks like a great player, but if he doesn't bed in straight away, but you've lost Jorginho and Partey, he's kind of going to have to play, even if he's not settled in well and he's not adapted quickly. And we saw Mikel Merino took a while to get up to speed with the Premier League. First few months, he looked like he was kind of half a second off the pace. Don't think Zubamendi will be like that, because I think that's one of his best assets, is how quick he is at making decisions and moving the ball on. But it's just a gamble if you lose Partey and Jorginho, unless I've seen we've been linked to like Hato, and we know we were in for Huijsen. So unless the plan is for Miles to be a midfielder primarily next season, or to cover that spot, and we're looking at bringing in another centre-back, left-back, maybe that's the solution. But yeah, it's a lot of experience to lose in one summer if you don't replace it.
Yeah, it's huge amount. And if I'm honest with you, I don't know enough about Zubamendi. Like, I'm not going to say he's a bad signing because I don't know if he is or isn't. I've seen great things of his compilations, but I also looked at Mustafi once and thought he was Cannavaro on YouTube, right? So you need to be careful with that. I do like what I see, though, and I do also like what I hear. And I think what's kind of interesting to me is that other clubs of top quality were after him, whether it be Manchester City or Liverpool, whether it be the clubs in Spain. What do you make on the comments, Bavs, that he made about Xabi Alonso and Real Madrid? Do you think that's just literally like sort of reporter making something out of something, or what are you telling me?
Look, I didn't watch the interview. I've seen the quotes, and I know how the internet works as well. Quotes can get, put into one way and another. I feel like the deal's done. Let's be real. When you've got Fabrizio Romano saying, "Here we go," 99% of the time the deal's done. And I just think it's a matter of just getting the contract signed, get the medical sorted, and I think he'll be an Arsenal player come the start of July. So I'm not too concerned about that deal itself. But I think it's a positive the fact that Real Madrid want the player. Real Madrid want Zubimendi, and that just shows the quality of player as well. So yeah, I definitely say that he's coming to Arsenal. I'm not too concerned about those quotes.
What are you telling me, DG? Because like Xabi Alonso love was fair, but they're making out like he wants Real Madrid and shit.
Yeah, I can't lie, Dan, man. Obviously, I hear all the points and stuff that's said on social media that he signed, that there's accountancy things in July and the necessary paperwork is done. I have no doubt about that. If that's what they're saying, fair enough. But for me, until I see, just me as a humble fan, until I see you pictured at the Emirates or whatever holding a shirt, I take everything with a pinch of salt. And I mean, when you've got Real Madrid onto you and you're talking about Xabi Alonso, that's enough to entice any player, let alone someone that's worked with Xabi Alonso before, let alone a fellow Spanish person. Now, if we've really been doing our due diligence for a year and whatnot, and he's, a man of his word, quote unquote, then we've got nothing to worry about. I do think we need Zubimendi, kind of piggybacking off what you lot were saying about Partey. I do think Partey has to stay because I think we'd be too lightweight in midfield. And even if Partey stays, we've probably got an earmark for the next 12 months to be assessing a midfielder. But I like what Zubimendi can bring to the table. I'm sure everybody watched the Spain-France game yesterday or highlights of it. And yeah, we'll probably play as a 6, but I just think he's a player Mikel Arteta will probably demand a bit more from, quote unquote, in the final third. So I'm happy for him. Obviously, I don't know how he's going to adapt. There's all those caveats, but I like Zubimendi. It'd be nice to just get over the line because it's a long dragged out saga for many a clubs, let alone Arsenal, with Martin Zubimendi.
I must admit, that game last night makes me realise that Thomas Tuchel knows the two teams he's got to try and compete with. My God, those two teams have got some serious ballers in it, man. That Ryan Cherky, oh my God, he
Should be
looks
Arsenal.
unbelievable. Like that's a bargain, by the way, 30-odd million. Like,
Do you not find it
why are we
surprising
not all
though?
over that?
Like, all of football's looking at £30 million. And if you know what the weirdest thing is, in January, I think I saw Fabrizio tweet saying that he was available for 22 million euros, and no one went for it. Like, I find that very surprising. If you got all these scouts, there's got to be something that's just way too cheap for a player. Like, he was sublime last night. I was like, wow, this guy's sensational. I can't believe teams have gone for him.
Yeah, I saw. So apparently it was weird. So apparently Leon had agreed in January that he could leave for 22.5 million as like a gentleman's agreement, and I think Dortmund bid 22.5 million, and then Leon were like, "Nah, actually, you're not." And so now they might have to pay a fine or something, and that was why Man City went in and bid the same to see what the case was. But yeah, if he goes for 30, 35 mil, and that's euros, I don't know why no one else is pressing it, or unless behind the scenes, him and City have just fully agreed it's City or nothing.
I also feel like he would only suit City's environment the most, in the sense that they keep the ball in that final third so often. And he's not a player who, like Liverpool, for example, there's a reason why they're going for Wirtz over Cherky. Cherky's not as a transitional player who can run up and down the pitch like a Szoboszlai. He ain't got that same engine, whereas Wirtz does. But in City's team, I think he'll be excellent. I think in terms of KDB going out and that creative player, we saw that pass, man. I mean, the goal was sublime. Let's not even start on that. But the couple passes he's playing behind, bro, I was in awe. I can't lie. Very good signing.
I think he's a baller, man. Obviously, Zubimendi was playing. You've got Pedri. You've got the likes of Yamal. There was a little clip of Mbappe v Yamal. It was it was just wild. So, yeah, that game last night was absolutely ridiculous, man. I've got to be honest. And I've been very, very impressed with PSG as a team. But I was looking at some of the individual ballers on show last night, just thinking, wow, maybe Europe isn't as bad as I'm thinking, because there's some quality here. Trust me. There really is. But no, look, sticking to Arsenal. Hand of Arsenal, which apparently was hand of Ozil, and I don't really do X like most people, but they believe that he's fairly reliable. He's saying we're going all out for Rodrygo, people. And to be honest, this is the one that would excite me. If I just read out what was tweeted here, Arsenal have made Rodrygo their number one winger target this summer. We can exclusively reveal the recruitment team at Arsenal are in a unanimous agreement that Rodrygo goes as a player who could be the difference in the hunt for major silverware. Several key figures at Arsenal have spoken to Rodrygo, including the first team players, about life at Arsenal in North London. And other Premier League sides are involved and have set out their strategy to lure him. But I'm told that Arsenal will present a strong financial offer if the player is placed on the market. The current situation is, we reported weeks ago, Rodrygo set to have a meeting with Xabi Alonso regarding his future at Real Madrid. This meeting is yet to take place. We can also exclusively reveal that Rodrygo will try to emphasize his will to play as a left-sided role, and the Brazilian feels this is where he can express himself best and maximize his creative potential positionally. The Club World Cup will be a key indicator of how Rodrygo's future is settled. Real Madrid are adamant they do not want to sell Rodrygo unless the player asks for a move personally. Arsenal are willing to pull off a Ozil-esque transfer and compete with any club for the services of Rodrygo should he become available. Finally, I want to say it's a huge privilege and milestone personally to collaborate with a world-class journalist here. Look, this for me would go down as one of the biggest that we've had in a long time. Now, I was saying this the other day with Curtis. I don't think Arteta's had that yet. I appreciate Declan Rice was a huge signing, but when you sign somebody from West Ham, no disrespect, you don't go, wow, you've pulled off one of the absolute miracle signings here. I don't think we've had our Ozil signing yet, our Alexis Sanchez signing, maybe our Aubameyang signing. And Wenger managed to do that when, let's be real, we were seen as someone that couldn't compete or challenge or win titles. So for me, Mikel Arteta, now that he's got us back there, I think needs to get a signing like this that's seen as marquee. Whether it's Gyokeres and Rodrygo, whether it's just Rodrygo, I think both of them would be like wow signings for me. And I feel like Rodrygo's the one. Rory, what are you telling me on this one, bro?
Yeah, we've got to get it done. I know some people in the chat saying that he's not available, but I mean, I remember saying a few months ago that I felt like, before any links were out, that I felt like Rodrygo was a player that could leave Madrid because he's a left winger that wants to play off the left but has never had the chance at Madrid. And now we're hearing as well that they're bringing in that young lad from River Plate, Manstuano or whatever his name is, who's a right winger, which again suggests he'd be on his way. And if Xabi Alonso's coming in and wants to spend any proper money, he probably needs to have at least one big sale. So from that side, I think it all makes sense. And from our perspective, you know, realistically, for 3 years, we've been trying to find another left winger. Like, we love Martinelli. Trossard came in and did a job, but we were willing to spend big on Mudryk. So it's clearly a position Arteta always felt like we needed to bring someone in. And I just think the parallels with him and Sanchez in terms of the way that their career had gone, I just think he's ready to like kick it up to that next level, and he would have that platform with us. So yeah, I think we've got to get it done.
Yeah, what are you saying, Bavs?
Yeah, what a player, man. What a player. I mean, I remember when he scored those 2 goals against City in the Champions League, came off the bench. I mean, from that moment, I was like, this guy's a top player. And, you know, that's what Real Madrid do so well. They go to Brazil, they invest in those talents, Vinicius, Rodrygo, and they give them time, and now they're superstars. And I feel, look, we don't have any excuse not to invest the money. I've heard a lot about the price tag, £80 million or euros. And I'm like to myself, look, last summer we signed 2 marquee signings. I'm not going to count Sterling, just Calafiori and Marino. We signed no one in January. We haven't invested in a striker for a long time, and a forwards. So I think now's the time that you've waited and waited. There's a player on the market that's available. We didn't go for Kvaratskhelia, which was a killer in my eyes. Now you got to go for Rodrygo. I think he's a player who, I don't think we can play the same system in the sense of, like, you know, put him in the Martinelli role, he'll thrive, he'll do better for sure. But I think he's a player who, if you can get closer to the striker, whether it's Gyokeres or Sesko, and play off him as well, Saka on one side, Rodrygo on the other, you want to have 2 of the top 10 wingers in world football. And I feel like right now we've got one in Bukayo, but not the other. And I think Rodrygo's a player. And it matters if he's going to leave as well, if he wants to leave. Obviously, we'll see in the Club World Cup, sorry. And then from there, we'll go. But I think the price tag, I'm not really bothered about it. You go pay that money. He's a superstar. And you have to pay it. We have no excuses. We've not spent enough money since 2023, I'd say, since Rice's signing, to really complain about it.
Yeah, I've got to say, DG, if this one, there's any sort of inkling, Arsenal just have to get it done. And I think that we can give him what he wants, which is obviously that left-hand side. He's definitely better on an upgrade, or huge upgrade on what we've got already. And I think that there is that opportunity for him to cover for Saka should he have to, because obviously he can play on the right. He's proved that for Real Madrid. But if he actually does want to stay at Real Madrid and say, I want to play on the left-hand side, he's got Kylian Mbappe and Vinny Jr. that can both play off there, that are definitely going to get ahead of him. And I think Real Madrid will see as a kind of potential future with those as opposed to Rodrygo. If there's one that's going to go, I think it will be him, man. So what's the likelihood of this happening, do you think, bruv?
I mean, if they've got to sell without knowing Real Madrid's squad, but there's probably players that aren't going to bring in as much money as Rodrygo, but they'll explore their exits if they do have to balance books and whatnot. Of course, if they're looking at marquee sales and Florentino Perez wants to raise funds, then everybody knew Rodrygo could probably be the one that's seen as disposable. Real Madrid's the pinnacle of football. You know, I'm sure when he was a young kid in South America, like the majority of them, that was his dream. He's realized it. He's playing, and it all depends. How much does he want to leave? We all know managers are good liars. Now, if you're Xabi Alonso and you recognize that I've got Vinicius, I've got Mbappe, we're going to compete on all these trophies, we need a squad, are you not going to tell Rodrygo everything he needs to hear? Because once the window closes, it doesn't really matter. He's got to probably sit down for another year. I don't know how he looks at the World Cup. He'll probably go there if he goes to another team, but that's going to affect certain things. It does also come down to the finances. In theory, I like Rodrygo. I think he could do the pressing thing. I think it's very easy for players to do that. You know, it's easier to be able to run around a lot when you've got technical ability. As you lot have said, you know, the left-hand side is free. If there is the finances to get it done, get it done. The problem is there's going to be a queue of teams in Europe that are going to be onto him. And you do hear a lot of different whispers, you know, Real Madrid need to sell. He actually wants to stay. Nothing's going to be sorted until the Club World Cup. He has to have a conversation with Xabi Alonso. His willingness is to stay. How much does he want to leave? You know, people don't typically leave Real Madrid. Real Madrid leave you kind of thing. And it seems like Florentino Perez likes him. I mean, as a lot of this seems to have come in about that, you know, he might quote unquote feel underappreciated. So I would, if there's an inkling of being able to get it done, get Rodrygo done. But I don't think we're going to see this happen quickly. And I genuinely don't think he's going to leave. Of course, I hope he's wrong. And I hope he comes to the Emirates. But yeah, I can't put too much stock in that one, bro. I think
he's leaving still. I think he's leaving. I think his best position is left winger, and you've got Vinicius there, and maybe Mbappe. So if you want to stick on the right the whole time and not play in the best position, you can stay at Real Madrid. But you go to clubs that you can play as a starting left winger, become a superstar, and then prove to Real Madrid why you should have been the starting one in the first place. Like, we know Vinicius is top draw, but I think Rodrygo's thrived the most on the left hand side as well. So I think that's where he wants to play, and I don't think that'll be happening at Real Madrid.
And then you got the PSGs and everybody that's going to probably be interested. So I think we could sell him a project and find the finances. But boy, I think everyone in Europe be interested. Is Rodrygo's a player?
They should be, but when you've got Kvaratskhelia and Barcola, bro, you got to stop sometimes. You know what I mean?
Chelsea.
Nah, I don't think they're unstopping because that's what's got them to this, man. Real Madrid ain't stopped. Look, they're collecting it like Infinity Stones, and as Rory said, they're finding the next South American player. As we're speaking, there's probably some 16, 17-year-old they're signing. I just think everyone in Europe will be queuing up for him. I think we could sell him a project. I mean, he's seen firsthand what Arsenal's all about. I'm sure, you know, it's Brazilian international duty. I'm sure he's probably talking to our boys from Brazil at the moment. I just don't know. And then I don't want to sound spoiled. And I would obviously be over the moon with Rodrygo, and I'm no financial man, but it'd be a big financial outlay. I think we all know that's not enough. Like, we still would need to address other areas. I don't think we'll have a quick resolution. I don't think even if he leaves, we're not seeing that solved until after this Club World Cup, which is obviously expanded and whatnot. If there's a willingness to get it done. But yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, man. I can't put my heart on that yet.
If he moves this summer and we don't get him, we've fumbled it, because there is no other team that should be able to offer him as good as a guaranteed starting place at left wing, whilst competing as we should be for the league and the Champions League. And we shouldn't be outbid financially. Like, the only other teams that can even offer him guaranteed minutes starting on the left really is Liverpool, maybe Chelsea. But if Liverpool were to go and get Wirtz and Rodrygo whilst we don't get either, like, they shouldn't be able to spend that and us not. Like, we've made a profit in the last 3 transfer windows. So yeah, if he goes this summer and we don't get him, it's a fumble. If he stays at Real Madrid, like, fair enough, you can't blame someone for staying at Real Madrid. But
yeah, and essentially, I wonder if that is actually what is going to happen. Like,
that's clearly what he wants, man. He just wants to know how he thinks he's into things.
Yeah, I think he wants to have this chat with Alonso. Alonso will tell him the dream. Okay, I'll give you opportunities on the left. And I think essentially he'll end up staying. But I hope Babs is right. I hope he does go. I don't think it's just Arsenal that are going to go in for him.
We hope Babs is wrong. If he's not signing for Arsenal, yeah, he can't be going anywhere, man. Like he's not joining us. Forget that.
But I think we're forgetting that Man City are probably going to be looking at a left winger. I think we're forgetting that Chelsea will. I think we're forgetting that Bayern Munich are trying to get rid of Sane and all these guys because they're needing a winger. They've got Elise, obviously, but I think they'll be going in for him as well. So it won't just be Arsenal. But I agree with Rory. I think if you're looking at where is ready right now, everybody loves London. I do think that there's a position for him there that's going to be clear for him to play every game. And I do think that, that's the sort of signing that can get us across the line for silverware. So I think it should be a good, tempting project for him. Whether he wants that, is obviously up to him. And if he wants to stay at Real Madrid, there's not much we can do. But if he becomes available, we have to. It's like the Kvaratskhelia one was crazy for me. Not just Arsenal, by the way. How everyone dropped the ball there was just scary for me. Like how you can get somebody that good available for 63 million. Even if he wants to go to PSG, just put money in. Just be ambitious enough to go, here you go, man. Try and come to us. We can't let you go there. We want you. And look, he's going to want a treble now.
I think some strange stuff happens with PSG, though, because he went there and it seemed like no one else was interested. But it was the same with João Neves when he moved there. Every Premier League club was interested in João Neves and was willing to pay more than PSG ended up paying. And then suddenly he's gone to PSG.
I saw the stat that PSG have got by far the highest wage bill in all of Europe. So I feel that plays a part. Come on. He's playing at a top level. He'll play in the Champions League. I don't think he's getting Saudi money, but, I think it's just very attractive for a player to go to PSG, play with Dembele and co, and get paid the bag sum as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what PSG do now as well, because they've moved away from the kind of Galacticos approach. Got a team. Are they going to go back now they won the Champions League? Is everyone going to go to them now and they'll go mad again? So I think that's going to be interesting, man. I really do. But that's that. Listen, let's see what happens with Rodrygo. If it becomes available, Arsenal just have to. There's no, for me, there'll be no excuses. If we don't go in for him and we allow other teams to do it, I'm sorry, man, that can't happen. Peter with a super chat says, Saliba and Rodrygo swap. I would take this as Saliba's head is turned. New centre-back or Ben White. Oh, no, I don't want Ben White at centre-back. Thank you. But I don't know what your thoughts are. Would any of you actually do this? Because I can't lose Saliba, man.
Not a chance in hell. Rodrygo's good, but he's not Saliba good. So,
that's not how
that's just simple as.
You don't progress by trading one world-class player that's crucial to your team for another. Bro. If we want to go up a level, you need to keep Saliba and bring Rodrygo. That's the next step. Otherwise, it's just you trade off your defense for your attack.
I mean, unless Saliba says I want to go Real Madrid, if we are entertaining this Rodrygo chat, we might as well just try to buy Rodrygo outright, keep Saliba where he is, give him his deal.
Yeah, look, man, I'm with you. Roshan says, big up to the panel. Big up to you, Roshan. Big up to you. Big up to everyone that's in the chat. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit subscribe. And yeah, man, all that jazz. Make sure you're following every single one of these. Rory Talks Football, Bavs, and Deluded Guna. Listen, let's talk the striker situation, shall we? It's the elephant in the room. Everyone wants us to discuss it. There's been a couple of rumors today in relation, again, to Gyokeres and, of course, to Benjamin Sesko. Let's read those and then let's discuss. This has come from Miguel Delaney today, suggesting that it is looking like Sesko. The Arsenal ownership and most of the hierarchy feel that Sesko presents the best overall package, with the club continuing to do more work on the deal. One view is that missing out on Sesko now might be like missing out on another Alexander Isak. There is, of course, talk on Victor Gyokeres as well. Arsenal went into the summer deciding between Sesko and Gyokeres, but it's understood Sesko is currently leading. Sesko has long been considered as having a higher ceiling, while there is a general view in the market that Gyokeres is overpriced. I need to try and make sense of this, guys, because I want Gyokeres. I think he's clear. I think he's definitely the one that we should take the punt on. I don't know why Sesko is being compared to Gyokeres. I think Sesko might be a very good player, and I'm not going to say he's going to come to Arsenal and flop. I think the less of the risk is the one that's absolutely killing it in Europe. The guy's got an unbelievable amount of goals in the last 12 to 18 months. I think when you look at what he brings overall to his game, it looks very impressive. People laugh at his stint at Coventry. I don't. I think it's a very physical, competitive league. And I think that there's been many, many players that come from the Championship that do very well in the European clubs. And when you look at what Sesko's done, I'm not trying to make out like Sesko's some scrub. I think some people get it twisted. I think a lot of people are making out like this is a Yaya Sanogo signing or a Francis Jeffers signing. This is not, right? Sesko is a very good player. And I'm sure that he's got potential to be an unbelievable player. But I want the guy that's ready now. I don't want the guy that's got potential in 3 or 4 years to be one of the best. Because in 3 or 4 years, we might have won nothing again. Let's get the guy that gets us across the line. So for me, it's Gyokeres. And apparently Sesko's more expensive from what I'm hearing. Gyokeres is cheaper, but probably wants more wages from what I understand. Sesko, I think, is going to be more money, but probably wants less wages. So I don't know how you work all this out, what you think is going to happen. So, Roz, my 2 questions for you, bro, is who would you like Arsenal to sign out the 2, and who do you think will sign out the 2?
I think we'll sign Sesko. And honestly, like I've been saying I genuinely would be happy either way. And I feel like the fan base has got into this state where everyone goes further and further apart into like, has to be Sesko, has to be Gyokeres. And I really think we're probably good either way, as long as we sign one of them. And like, I can understand why the club are kind of toing and froing, because I do feel like they understand we're in that win now thing, which is Victor Gyokeres. Like, you want to win next season, you bring in Victor Gyokeres. But equally, long term, there is still a risk to Gyokeres. Like, I do think he would hit the ground running. I think he'd be fine. But if he doesn't, suddenly you've got a guy in his late 20s, apparently wants like 300 grand a week. And if you bring him in on like a 5-year deal and he doesn't hit the ground running, you're in a bit of a hole with him. Whereas Sesko, if he doesn't hit the ground running, he'll retain that value and you can sell him on. So like, I get it both ways. I get it both ways. One thing I would say is the only other team that seems hot on Gyokeres is Man United. Whereas I know like Chelsea's recruitment, Liverpool's recruitment are hot on Sesko. So that's kind of a red flag, in my opinion, for Gyokeres. But I'm happy either way. So I'm not going to get too tied up on it.
Okay, Bavs?
I'm clear on who I prefer. I definitely prefer Sesko, 100%. Because I think I've seen, in terms of Gyokeres, his goals numbers are insane. I've seen them broken down in terms of non-penalties, in terms of who he scores against. And I think one thing Gyokeres gives Arsenal if we do sign him is just shot power, ball striking. And that definitely improves us. And look, if I've seen Mikel Merino start for Arsenal, score goals for us as a striker, Gyokeres still improves Arsenal. But with Sesko, what I see is, look, one thing that we do so often when we're struggling is we cross the ball into the box. We bang crosses into the box all the time. And it's trying to find someone, trying to aim for someone who excels in the air. Havertz was all right, but nothing special. Gyokeres was awful in the air. I don't think he scored many headers at all last season. And I think if you're so insistent on crossing the ball into the box as your main chance creation form, why not sign a striker who specialises? He's 6'5". He's very, very good in the air. And I think ultimately has a lot more potential as well. And I think Rory's got a great point as well. If Gyokeres' price tag is 55 million euros, something like that, and you look at the goal record, there'll be a lot of teams that want strikers. Liverpool want a striker, Arsenal want a striker, a lot of top clubs around Europe want a striker. So why haven't teams made him their first target? There's got to be a reason behind that. And I think like his overall game, I think Sesko's got a better overall game, better overall potential as well. But, I think there's a reason why Arsenal have been thinking about it for so long, because they see the potential now for Gyokeres. But I don't think Gyokeres is a signing that if we sign him, he guarantees a title next season. I think there's only one striker that does that, and that's Alexander Isak. So if you're going to sign Gyokeres and you don't guarantee a title either, I don't think long-term potential-wise, Sesko's a player that if we don't sign him this season, it will be like Isak. I guarantee it. I've seen so much of the player. I've seen him play so many games, and I just see so much quality as well and what he can add to Arsenal. So I got a clear preference, but I still believe that both strikers elevate Arsenal, because we're going from Havertz and Merino, who are natural number 9s, to 2 very natural number 9s that score goals for fun. And I think they both elevate us, but I prefer Sesko.
Okay. DG, Gyokeres or Sesko, or could we get both? Someone was saying the other day to me that we could get both. I don't think we will, but what are you saying?
I mean, in an ideal world, both would be ideal, innit? You got one that's kind of you're more right now, ready to go, plug and play on, in theory, 26, 27 years of age, kind of got more goals, but obviously a lot cheaper. You could caveat that with Sesko. I share the sentiment that everyone says. I understand if you want Gyokeres, yeah, but people move like, if we don't get Gyokeres, Sesko is some guy that we're taking out of the pub. I like what Sesko is. I like what he could become. He's definitely not the most prettiest of footballers, but I do think he can do everything Mikel Arteta wants from a striker. He is of an upwards trajectory. Apparently, he will cost a lot more money. So if he's going to cost a lot more, and we've been scouting him for a couple of years now, the club have to know about his quality. Personally, I would have liked Gyokeres just because I think it's a bit different. There's a reality where both sign for us and they bang, both don't sign, both sign for us and they bang, both sign for us and they flop. I would have liked Gyokeres because I just think it's a bit different. I do think we're in that trap of players that develop in the next 2 to 3 years. But I do think people downplay Sesko. I think with Sesko, it more kind of tells me in the short to medium term in that him and Kai Havertz will probably share that striker role in which people won't hear. And I do think if we do go and get Sesko, I do think it's a bit harsh on him in that, yeah, I think many balanced fans could see, you know what, he's developing, he's young, he's going to go through highs and lows, but we're in that win now mode. So regardless of what Mikel Arteta does, whether it is the more experienced Gyokeres or Sesko, we're going to have to hold that. And I think with Gyokeres, he's had the Coventry stint. It's not worked out for him at Brighton. I know people will look at the sport in Lisbon, the Portuguese league, and the strikers that have come through there, and actually sometimes the level of defending, but I think he scores a lot of goals. I do think his link-up play is quite good, like Sesko's. I do think we're into this weird trap as football fans where people are always nitpicking and finding things that are not necessarily there. Like, you could score 1 million goals, people say, oh, but he's only got 2 headers. I think they both have their pros and cons, and I do think those that are very adamant Gyokeres is the guy, they probably will be the first that, God forbid, if he signs for us and it doesn't work out. I told you that's why we shouldn't sign players from the Portuguese league. I do think we've scouted both. I personally think we're going to go for Sesko. I do think people downplay Sesko. I don't think he's the prettiest of strikers. I think he's more of a, I don't want to compare him to Haaland, and he's got general play, but he's never going to be the most prettiest of footballers. He's not going to be like Isaac. He's not going to be graceful. He's almost like a robot. I like him, man. I think, again, I hope he can prove me wrong, but I do think people will be happy about Sesko signing. That being said, though, I am my fan cap on. Of course, I'm impatient, and you can't look beyond Gyokeres, man. And regardless, Dan, I don't want to hear no excuses for not winning silverware. The fact that Sesko is going to be a good player in 2-3 years, that's great for him individually. But for the club, need to get it over the line by hook or by crook, man.
Yeah, do you know what's funny with me, right? When I look on social media, like the Arsenal fan base, there's only a section. I'm not going to say it's everyone, but it's like the Zuber-Mendy thing. It's like, yeah, unbelievable player. I can't wait for this. This is going to elevate us in midfield, take us to the next level. He makes one comment about Real Madrid. They're like, I don't want him. He's rubbish. He's not even that good anyway. I thought, well, hang on a minute. What's happening here? Now we get it with Sesko. It's like, oh, I want Gyokeres. I want Gyokeres. Yeah, that Sesko doesn't look that good. Then they'll see a clip and they're like, I saw the other day someone comparing him to Lewandowski and Suarez combined. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Let's just calm down, man. I've not seen enough of this guy. He's not impressed me for his country. I haven't seen enough of him at Leipzig. From what I can tell, he's done okay. There's about 8 or 9 players that have scored more goals than him in the Bundesliga. Let's just calm down. This guy might be a good player, but he doesn't look ready for me right now to win Arsenal a title. That's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes in and gets 35 goals and smashes it, right? That's what I will be hoping, and I'm happy to give him a chance. And that's the other thing. When we signed Aaron Ramsdale, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I weren't shouting from the rooftops about to get it out or whatever, but I wasn't really one of those that said, wow, that's a good signing. But I actually give him a chance in an Arsenal shirt, and I thought, you know what, he looks all right. He's done all right with us. That's what we need to do now, whoever we bring in. I'm not going to start ranting and raving before I've even seen him kick a ball, because if I start ranting and raving about us getting Sesko, although I do not believe personally he's the guy to get us across the line, if he scores 30 goals, I'm going to look like a muppet, right? If I'm screaming and shouting that we shouldn't have signed him. So we've got to give him a chance. I didn't want Kai Havertz. Yeah, on the back end of last season, he started to score. I do not want him as my number 9. If I'm honest, and if I'm brutally honest, I don't know that I see much of a difference between Sesko and Havertz. I've got to be honest. Potentially, maybe Sesko could be brilliant. Yeah, from what I've seen, Babs, and it's very little of what I've seen. Tell me, what has Sesko got that's like levels on what Havertz has got?
I think mindset, mentality of a striker. That's the key difference. Sesko is a striker, and he knows he's a striker. Havertz is, he doesn't know kind of what he is at times. So he is, for example, when Sesko gets the ball in the box, he'll shoot. You see, like the goal he scored against Man City when we beat them 5-1, the first goal, and Havertz is in, but he passes to Odegaard and we score. Sesko shoots there. I think that's the main difference. Sesko is a natural striker. He's a natural goal scorer, and ball striking as well. You know, I think Gyokeres' main aspect is the fact that he's got so much shot power, but Sesko's got the same thing as well. You know, he's not as developed because Gyokeres has got more experience, but Sesko's got an insane strike. We just watch some of his goals. You'll see the power he's got behind that as well. So I think that the similarities are the fact that they're both from the Bundesliga. They're both kind of tall and lanky and it's kind of skinny, and that's about it. But I think in terms of like the mentality of the players as like forwards and strikers, Sesko for me, you know, is very different to Havertz.
Look, I don't know, man.
I think there's a lot of people that realistically, like when we didn't sign Isak, they would never have wanted us to sign Isak because Isak had scored 6 goals in La Liga when Newcastle signed him and when we were interested in him, right? So they would never have said we should sign a guy that's just scored 6 goals in La Liga. 2 years later, though, they'll criticise us massively because we didn't sign Isak. Oh, why didn't we sign him when he went to Newcastle? It's very easy to do that then. And they're the same people that 2 years ago hadn't heard of Victor Gyokeres. But if we don't sign him now, we're idiots. But in 2 years' time, Benjamin Sesko could be one of the best strikers in the world, and they'll be saying, "Oh, why didn't we sign Sesko? Why did we sign?" Like, people want to sign the current best striker in the world, but for like the price of someone that hasn't reached that potential yet, and you can't have both. So I feel like there's you can pick one or the other. Isak would have been both, but we don't have 150 million quid to spend on a striker. So yeah, it's which do you want?
I think this is where I stand, right? I'm not going to deny that he won't be the best striker in the world in 2 or 3 years' time. I can't tell that, but from what people are telling me, he's going to be one of the best. I've seen him compared to Lewandowski, compared to Haaland, Isak. I mean, I don't know how you can. They're three very, very different strikers in my opinion, but apparently that he's like all 3 of them, right? So he's going to be the next best thing, which is cool. If he isn't the next best thing in the next 2 years, and it's going to take 3 or 4 for him to absolutely explode, I'd rather get the guy that's ready now, because I don't want to wait another 2 or 3 years for a number 9. I've been waiting 4 years to try and get Aubameyang's goals covered. This is my problem. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
on,
I mean, what I have to say to that is, look, I hear what Rory says in the fact that, he can be the best striker in 2 years' time, but I think even at his base level right now, what he is as of right now, I think he still improves us quite a lot in terms of he gives us things that we don't have. He's a runner in behind, which
so would you agree that Havertz was a bad signing then now, Bavs?
No, I don't think Havertz is a bad signing. I've always made that clear that I think Havertz is still a very useful player. I mean, like last year we were a point or 2 off the title when Havertz scored like 10 goals towards the end of the season. No one really complained about that. But last year, he struggled going forwards. But I think alongside Sesko or Gyokeres, I think Havertz is still going to be a useful player. I think the wages are a bit over the top for sure. I don't think we should be paying him like 300 grand a week. But I think in terms of use of the player, I think he's been perfectly fine. I don't think he's been a bad signing. But with Sesko, I definitely feel like even his base level right now of what he offers Arsenal, different to what Havertz is and different to what Jesus is, improves Arsenal. But we've just seen Mikel Merino score against Real Madrid as our striker. So you're telling me a natural striker who people say, he scored 13 goals last year. He shares goals, by the way, because he plays in a 2-man striker system. But I think since in terms of under 23 players in the world, only Saka, Bellingham, and Wirtz have more than him. That's more than Musiala and Elise and a lot of top players people rate. I think goal records, they stand up quite a lot for Gyokeres, but I don't think Gyokeres, this idea that you sign him and he guarantees a title next season, I don't think he does. And I think in a year's time, you regret not signing Sesko anyways. So no, I'm adamant. I think Sesko is the guy.
Okay. I think it's interesting, because I'm with you, but I don't think anyone guarantees us to win the league. I still have my doubts. I don't think a striker's enough, personally. I still think we're about 4 or 5 positions away, personally, from winning it, because we need a squad. So people that say we get Sesko and then we win the league is deluded as far as I'm concerned. We're going to need a hell of a lot more than that, which is why we've spoken about Rodrygo and why we've spoken about midfield today as well. So for me, it's going to be a massive sum or whatever. Before I sort of come to a kind of close of the last sort of question, DG, let me ask you this, man. You and I have spoken quite a lot about the signings that Arsenal need and Andrea Berta coming in. At the moment, I'm looking at Liverpool and I'm looking at Manchester City. And to be fair, we shouldn't really be, because there's only really one club that matters and it's our club. But you do like to see what everyone else is doing and who we believe is going to be competing. I've said a few times on this show and on other shows that I've been on that I actually think this title race is going to be mad next year. I actually think there's genuinely 4 or 5 teams that could go for a title challenge. Now, whether you believe Newcastle or Chelsea could go and win the Premier League is another debate. But I think that we could get to February, March time and have at least 3 teams, maybe even more, that could have a genuine chance of winning the league. Because I think Manchester City with Rodri back is going to be key. I think Liverpool look like they're moving mad this window. Arsenal need to spend big. I predict and anticipate that both Newcastle and Chelsea also will. And I think that they're all similar sort of players away from really genuinely going for it, mate. So with what Arsenal need right now, what are you now expecting from the window to shut? You don't have to give me names, just kind of positions of where you think we'll strengthen.
I mean, well, you need depth and you need starting 11 quality. I think if I'm looking at, if we just laid out our strongest 11, I think you need a striker, whether it's Gyokeres, Sesko, whatever have you. You need that talismanic figure, or let's just say an upgrade. You need a left winger. No clue who that is, but you need a striker, you need a left winger. And obviously, where Zubimendi is concerned, you need other options in midfield. Then I think it's about having a bigger squad, if I'm completely honest with you, Dan, man. If Arsenal fans haven't learned anything last season, we need a bigger squad. It's all fun and games in the early weeks of August when it's 1 game a week. Then you get into that scenario where it's 2 games a week, 3 games in 10 days. People start getting injured, people start getting suspended, loss of form, etc., etc. And that's the major thing we learned. Like, we ran our players, unfortunately, into the ground. I feel sorry for my players last season. So we need that depth, man. Like you said, you know, Liverpool are at the pinnacle. You know, the only way literally is down in the Premier League, and they're finally having a good transfer window, which they didn't give Slot last season. City, after a season like this, they're not going to lie down. There's obviously going to be some, you know, contenders for the league that you don't see. And for us, it's about getting over the line now. Like, yeah, we finished second and we can talk about injuries and red cards and this and that. Let's be honest, I wouldn't say it's a false image, but that is probably our worst title challenge, regardless of how we look at it. We had 14 draws. That needs to be halved. We need to get over the line. We need to get over the line. And by doing that, clearly the attack, it's not just the attack, but goals win games. And when we break it down, we can hide behind stats about, I think we even had the most players in the Premier League to get double figures for goals and assists. But when we really and truly break it down and look at it, Saka is the only one that we truly, in your heart, believe that can get us out of trouble in that regards. And that's not fair to Saka. That's not fair to us. And it does feel like we keep doing the same things, expecting different results. So let's try something different. Like, we know what we need to do. A lot of the things that we've learned this season or didn't learn, or the things that harmed us in the season that's just gone by, we knew that already. We knew what we needed to do last summer. Let's put it right. It's as simple as that. Because again, it's all fun and games talking about Sesko and Gyokeres and this one and that one. People are frustrated. I don't know how the club feel internally, but fans are frustrated now. I know a lot of fans sit there and say, oh, you think you're entitled about winning a title. No. If you really rate Mikel Arteta, if you really rate these players individually, if you've seen us get to 2 semi-finals, if you've seen us finish second, it's fair to say we've been flirting with getting over the line. It's about doing that now. It's great having all the statistics and beating PSG on XG. It's about getting over the line, and the transfer market is central to that. Now, my personal opinion is obviously the transfer window helps greatly, but I need Mikel Arteta to evolve once again tactically. I think he showed good reaction to adversity last year, and he had and things like that. Sorry, I think he adapted. I don't think he necessarily evolved. I think there's a lot we have to do. We really need to fine-tune this football club, and if we don't, we're going to have the same season that's been going on. As I always say to you, Dan, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We know what we need to do. Let's go out there and do it, man.
No, listen, it's a big summer and it's huge.
Massive.
If I'm honest, then we've got to get that in, man. Listen, people, there's 1,200 of you in here, 1.2k. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Get all of these guys sub to as well, please. Rory, I've got a similar question for you, but I'm going to chuck another one on there. In terms of positions that you think that we'll get this summer is my question, but it looks like the backup goalkeeper is going to be Kepa, bruv. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't mind if Kyle Hayne came back and was the number 2 and Tommy Setford was number 3. Like, it's not really a position I'm that bothered about. We were happy for Neto, who I think is not a good goalkeeper at all, to be our number 2 last year, which was a gamble because if Raya gets injured, you're in absolute clown town in goal. But I think like Kepa wants 150 grand a week or something, which is just, I don't know, it's a weird use of wages. So I probably wouldn't bother with that. I think obviously Zubamendi, you bring in the left wing, bring in the striker. I think you still probably need a Saka backup. If Nwaneri is being pinned more as like Ødegaard competition, I feel like we need someone that you're like, I don't mind that player starting instead of Saka in lower level Premier League games, in cup games. If that's Sane on a free, don't mind that too much. But yeah, like DG said, I think depth is the big thing. And yeah, if Havertz becomes a bench player for us, people think that's a joke, and his wages are too much for a bench player. But in general, for a £60 million player to be a bench player, like that's kind of the stage that we're getting to. Like City spend 50 million on Nico Gonzalez in January, immediately go and get Reinders. He's a bench player now. And no one even bats an eyelid that they can just drop 50 million quid on a bench player. So that's kind of what we've got to compete with. And like next season, if Thomas Partey is a bench player because we brought in Zubamendi, well, then in 2 years, we've gone from like El Neni to Thomas Partey at that level. And so it is tough and you got to spend. And I do think with wages with Havertz was a bit much. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we'll that many. We're not going to sign that many. We're not going to come close to signing that many players. I think we'll sign 3 or 4, maybe 5 if we get someone on a free in attack. And maybe like, remember that Sverre Nipan that we were linked to? I wouldn't mind that as a cheap. Nah, Villa are pulled out because they got no money. Apparently, yeah. So
let's get some players from Villa.
That's someone where I'm like, because I do still think, even if we look at all the players we're bringing in, Declan Rice is the only midfielder we've got with like legs, with athleticism. because Zubimendi doesn't, Marino doesn't, Partey's on the way out of it. So you bring in someone like him who does have legs, he's younger, that would be maybe an additional one. But in terms of big signings, it's not going to be anything more than a central midfielder, a striker, and a left winger.
Yeah, I think look, I agree with Aaron. I think that we are short, and I think that there are all those positions we could say potentially that we could sign, right? But I think a goalkeeper, I'm a little bit more of Rory. Kepa, take it or leave it. 5 million doesn't really bother me. I'm not a fan of him, never have been. I don't really see much of a difference between us having Setford or Kine behind us, if I'm honest with you. So I wouldn't really want to be wasting much money in that position. I do think, and this is going to sound mad, but I do think we need another defender that's versatile because we're going to potentially lose quite a lot of them. Tomiyasu's still injured. We've obviously got question marks over Kivior's future. Zinchenko and Tierney look like they're out of here. So for me, we are short in the kind of depth positions there. Central midfielder, we need someone with legs. And funny enough, Aston Villa being mentioned, I would go and see what we can flirt with Morgan Rogers. I really would, because they've got to sell somebody. There's rumours that it's going to be Watkins and Emi Martinez that they get rid of. I would say, let's go and try and get Rogers, because he is perfect for what we need in terms of athleticism, creativeness, goals. I think he's an absolute baller. We definitely need a winger that can play on both sides, and we definitely need a striker. So I don't know where you're at with the kind of attacking midfield role, Babs, because Ødegaard has had a stinker of a season, and I appreciate that Ethan can play there. Fabi Vieira, no, not for me, but he's obviously one that's still on.
You might see Kai play there then.
Yeah, Kai can play there.
Well, I was going to ask this question, and I do not want to see this guy in midfield, man. I really do not want to see this guy in midfield. This is a backup striker for me now. He is the backup 9. That's the only position I see he can play in. Just keep him as a number 9. For me, you go and see if you can buy a Rodgers or an Eze or somebody like that and play that kind of that card. I don't want to see Kai Havertz in the bloody 10, Babs, or 8.
Yeah, nah, look, for me, I got one player that I want a platform in that area, and he's at Arsenal Football Club. And I think I see from Wanyeri. I mean, when you look at profiles on the market right now, Wanyeri is a player that I feel would be worth like 50, 60 million pounds already, because I think he's got that raw talent. And when you watch Shirky play yesterday, I think Wanyeri is like that type of player who just wow you. We saw that that game against Leicester where he scored. He didn't score a goal, he got an assist actually. Hit the post a couple of times, and I was just like, this guy's on a different level. And I was watching that game with a Leicester fan, he was just like, who's this kid? You know, why is he so good? I think I've got a player there. I would love a Rodgers. I just think he's more a runner than a creator. So maybe he can play out wide instead. Eze, I'd prefer profile-wise over Rodgers, for sure. But I think we've got to play in one area. And I think there's a reason why we haven't been linked to an attacker midfielder so far. You got Shirky on the market for £30 million. If you want a winger or a midfielder, he's one there, and you can go and sign him. But I think Mikel probably sees Ethan as like, okay, this is a long-term future. And I think we saw it in the final game of the season against Southampton. He started Ethan as a 10, and he was excellent again. I think, you know, he's a player, he's a talent you have to give the room for, because he's got that talent to be the best player in the team, because you don't get these talents every single day. And I feel like he's a player you need to platform going forwards. Well, I love to sign an attacking midfielder. Yeah, I'd love to sign Ryan Shirky. I think he's an amazing player. But I don't think we will. And I think Ethan will get his chance, hopefully, next season.
The thing is with Ethan, and I love Ethan. Ethan is unbelievable. I still feel, though, even with Ethan as cover for Saka or cover for Ødegaard, we might still be one short. So,
Yeah,
like,
he can't do both.
Go on, Rory.
No, I was just saying he can't do both. I think it's a gamble, because then if you end up with Ødegaard or Saka injured, then you're starting one area every game again, and then you're in a problem. So I think you're right. He can't be both Saka's and Ødegaard's backup.
I agree, and I think
But that's where Rodrygo would be amazing, no? Sorry, cut you off there.
Well, yeah.
Because he can play on the right and left. I think most wingers at Arsenal are going for Semenyo, Rodrygo. They're players that have both played on both sides. So that's where you got to sign a winger that's play on the right hand side and thrive. Then we saw him play Martinelli there. He's not really good on the right hand side, to be honest. Jesus isn't bad on the right. I've seen him play for City there, but he ain't going to be fit. So I think whatever winger you sign, he's got to be able to play on both sides. I
agree with that. And that's why Rodrygo would be perfect, because you play him left, and then if Saka is out, then you can play him right, Martinelli left. So that for me would be perfect. And then Ethan obviously is that cover. We've obviously got Max Dowman coming through as well. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, DG, if you think that this guy's ready or not, but he looks ridiculous, mate. I've seen some good players in my time, and I've also seen some players at Arsenal that I thought were going to be unbelievable and that never really made it, like J.M. Mamble-Thomas and Dan Crowley, and the list goes on. But this kid looks ridiculously good, man. And he's only 15. So it'd be really hard to expect him to come in and absolutely kill it. But the rumors I'm hearing are that he's actually going to be in the mix, bruv. So there's another player there that's coming through that, you know, is in the same mold as a Miles Lewis-Skelly, as an Ethan. Do you expect to see many minutes from him this coming season, bruv?
I mean, stranger things have happened. I expect him to make his debut once he turns 16. He's a very exciting player. Anyone that watched the England's under-17s where they kind of crashed out, anyone that's been watching Arsenal's under-18s where he's been captain in them, the FA Youth Cup, he's been training with the first team. I'm sure he went over to Dubai, probably be part of the pre-season tours in some capacity. We have to keep our feet on the ground though, man. The man's 15. Like, yeah, you've got the ability, your quality, that's got you there. What's going to keep you there? That's getting up to stage tactically, technically, and consistency wise. Obviously physically he's 15, like he's going through puberty, he's still developing, and unfortunately when you've been making the noise you are making in Max Dowman's case, the same rope you climb up on is the same rope they hang you with. It's difficult not to get excited. Like, I'll be very amazed if he's not a future Arsenal first team player. We just need to keep our feet on the ground. He just needs to keep working, and in years to come we've got a player there, man. And I wouldn't say the club are necessarily thinking about, not that they're not thinking about his pathway, but I don't think that's factoring in necessarily into our transfer business. But you have to kind of keep the pathway open for the Ethan Nwanieris and the Max Dowmans. On the topic of Nwaneri, beyond the obvious, I just would love him to spend this summer just getting up to speed with what Mikel Arteta demands from Martin Odegaard off the ball. Because on the ball, you can play in that 8.5, 10. It's the defensive duty, it's everything else. And clearly he's developing physically. But Haylen's pumping out talents, man. They're going to save us a lot of money, Dan, man.
Well, look, Lewis-Skelly and Ethan, for me, were two of the
positives
shout out
Lewis-Skelly,
season, man, because there wasn't many positives this season, but they were definitely two of them. Before I come to my last question to close, just want to chuck in a couple of these super chats before we do that. AFC Max, big up to you, my bro. I hope you're well, mate. Says, hey, guys, what an elite panel. Rory, Dan, Babs, and DG. I'm so happy that Gabriel was signed. We need Saka, Saliba, Martinelli, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Ethan signed up too. Big up to everyone. I hope you're having a great day. Love from Australia. Big up to you, bro. Really appreciate that super chat, man. Thank you so much. AMT is saying, is Jesus hindering Arsenal by being there? I think there's a few players that are, if I'm honest. Tomiyasu and Jesus, they're going to be stuck with us now for a long time because as much as we want to sell them and get them off the wages, they ain't going to be able to because no one wants them. And you can't get rid of them while they're crocked. It seems Jesus and Tomiyasu are definitely going to be spoken about potential futures in the January window. But for now, I think they're there till then, if I'm honest with you. I think the wage bill is another big issue. I don't know how you can put 265 and 290 for Havertz and Jesus when they're not smashing the silverware for you. But that's another story. Let me come to this last question. Rory, I'll start with you. Look, I think you and I have definitely disagreed over the manager for a long time now. I know that, you know, you're a big fan and you think he's the guy and you think he's going to get us across the line. And I have my doubts that he will. Is this the season? Now, what I mean by that is this the season where we're going to know if this guy's good enough or not? I've made my decision. I think he's shown us who he is. I think he's a good manager, but he's not an elite one. I don't think he's got what it takes when the pressure comes to get us across the line. That's just my opinion. People think I'm wrong. People think I'm right. With yourself, I know you've been a fan. You think there's been some kind of decisions as to why it's not gone our way this season in terms of injuries and other stuff like that. I think now there's not really where to hide. If we finish trophyless again and we don't get across the line in one of those 4 competitions, I don't see where else he can go. I don't think there's any hiding. I don't think there's any excuses now, but especially if we have an unbelievable summer window, which we're all hoping that we do under Andrea Berta. Where are you at with him, man? Do you still think this is the right guy for Arsenal? Come on, talk to me.
Yeah, I still, and some of our performances this year, even though we didn't win a trophy, I honestly think the Real Madrid performances, even the PSG performances, when you look at how good they were with the players that we had available, I think that is a manager who can adapt to a lot of different. There are teams that if they'd had the circumstances we had would have dropped out of the top 4 or 5. So yeah, like, don't get me wrong, if we don't win a trophy, I completely understand that the pressure is going to be immense. I think if we go and sign Benjamin Sesko, that is the club saying we're in this for longer than next season, and we are committed to him. If they go and sign another big project player, and I don't think there's any pressure on him internally, but I do understand, like, you have to start winning trophies, and if it is the case that it needs to be an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, even though I actually think if push came to shove, the people that want him gone now would still want him gone if we did win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, because it's not one of the big 2. yeah, look, we've got to wait and see what happens. It's not easy to win a Premier League or a Champions League. And I think he's capable, and I hope it will be next season. But no, I'm still fully backing him.
Yeah, look, man, I respect that because you've stuck to your guns, man. I don't like people that make them change their mind every 6 months. But for me, when I look at the scenario, people have said to me, "Oh, how can you say that he's not good enough and then keep him if he wins the Carabao Cup and goes for the league next year?" Because that's my minimum expectation for him. People think I'm negative and want him gone and hate the manager. I don't hate this manager. I don't know the geezer, right? I just want the manager of Arsenal to be successful. And if he wins me a Carabao Cup and he comes second on the last day of the season, I actually think that's fine because he's actually lifting something in May. That's what I've said. He's got to win something. I don't care. Show that you've got winning mentality and you can install it. Now, people have said to me, "You're crazy. It has to be more than that. Has to be more than a Carabao Cup. I'm not waiting 6 years for a Carabao Cup." And that's also fine. Like, people support their club how they want, right? For me, Premier League or Champions League would be absolutely the dream. That's, of course, the priority. You give me the Champions League first. I take the Premier League, of course, because it's unbelievable. And then you take one of the domestic cups if you can't get that. But you have to be competing. None of this, give me a Carabao Cup and come 10th. He's got to go if it does that, right? For me, it's got to be competitive in the league. Otherwise, you're going back to a Ten Hag situation, yeah? So if you're competing and taking Manchester City or Liverpool, whoever it is, the last game of the season, but you're lifting an FA Cup, I'm cool with that because I've won something. And this is what it's about. I was growing up winning stuff, so that's what I was used to. That's why I get frustrated when we don't win trophies. But when people say it needs to be a Premier League or he's got to go, I can also understand that as well, because this has been a build-up to win those trophies, not just get a few, those other trophies are seen as bonuses along the way. I respect them more than that, but some people don't care about the Carabao Cup. They're like, put it in the bin. I couldn't give a damn about the energy drink cup, they call it. So I can kind of see both sides, really. But where are you at, Babs? Come on, talk to me. Because you were similar to Rory, I would say that you're a massive Mikel fan. Where are you at?
I don't see last season as Mikel being the problem of why we didn't win a title. I think if you put, any favourite manager you have, Inzaghi or Slot, whoever, and they lose their star attacker and Saka for 3 months, and Gabriel for the end of the season, I don't think they win a title. So I don't think he was an issue last season. However, I don't agree on a stance that Carabao Cup or FA Cup is enough next season. I feel like for how long we've waited and how long we've invested in terms of fans, 5+ years now, we need a big one. It needs to be a Champions League. It needs to be a Premier League. And I feel with the investment we've made as well, this window, we're going to make this window. And, with Rice and Havertz and co, I think next season you have to win a big one. And if it's not that case, I don't think he will want to stay either. Because he would be like, how many more years do I have to keep saying next year we're going to win a big one and we don't get it? And I don't see Arsenal winning a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup and doing a parade. But I want to do a parade next year because I want a Premier League title or a Champions League. And I think that has to be the case in scenario. There's patience, and I've obviously invested quite a lot into the process itself, but I feel like a title is needed. Like, this year was painful. This year was very painful because we saw City drop off, and just to see all the injuries and just things go against us as well was annoying. But next year, I don't think I give him that leeway of injuries anymore. I think, look, at one point you're not just unlucky, you're just not quite good enough. And I think next year you have to show to me that you are good enough to win a title. And with the right signings this window as well, like, we talk about Sesko and projects. I think the idea is that even if Arteta isn't the guy next season, you still have Sesko, Saka, Saliba, players that other managers can work with and still mould into what they want. But I think next year has to be two of the big ones. And if not, then, for me, I'd be like, look, I don't think you're the person anymore.
Okay, that's interesting, and I respect that. A lot of people have said if he doesn't win one of the big ones, I think it's time to move on and get a winning manager. And to be fair, that's where I've been at for quite some time. But Deluded, what are you telling me, bro? I know you're very say it how it is. So talk to me, Mikel.
To be honest, I know football's black and white, and not black and white. And I think we're at that stage. I think Arteta is a good coach. You need to prove you're a winning coach. The man himself, the last 2 years, they said, we want the league. He's very specific with that. I feel there's very little balance and rhetoric with Arteta. I feel, there's a lot of unnecessary hate. I feel there's a lot of unnecessary excuses. And I think if you really think Arteta is one of the best managers in the world and all of these kind of things, then you have to hold into those standards. We've seen 3 years now where we finished second and not got over the line. And it's been golden errors. He needs to get over the line. He needs to. I know that I kind of agree with what Babs is saying in that I do think the goalposts will move. At this moment in time, everybody's on the whole, a trophy's a trophy. You needed to win something because obviously we've won nothing. If we fast forward a year from now, I don't think an FA Cup or a League Cup is going to save him. You need to win a Premier League, or dare I dream of something we've never done with the champs. You need to get over the line. And I know the gaffers come out many times. They said many teams would have fallen away if they had the injuries and all the stuff that we did, which is true. But then again, we're meant to be, and I'm not happy about it, but we're meant to be the second best team in the Premier League. So by that, there's by default only one team that could withstand that. And either way, there's been 3 years now where we've seen injuries, massive injuries, 1-2 injuries, or there's been different contexts. Fundamentally, we haven't got over the line. Ultimately, it's not just Arteta's fault, but this is the nature of the business. It falls to the manager. And I think a lot of people want to run behind, let's get rid of the Cronkies. It's the Cronkies letting him down. And again, I'm not saying these things are not true, right? But clearly, Mikel Arteta believes he can succeed in what he wants to do, which is probably the Premier League and getting us to where we need to. Or why on God's green earth would you sign a new contract? So ultimately, you've got to live by the high standards, man. We've got some good players. We're in that halfway house. It's like, we're so close, but yet so far. We're a good team. We have enough. If we want to be a team that just gets to semi-finals, beat City and Madrid on occasion, get second, we've got enough. You see, if we want to go over the line, Arteta's got to evolve tactically. We need a bigger squad. We need quality. We need to sing from the same hymn sheet. And then I look at the club, like the people above Arteta. I look at the summer, maybe you could say that's on Arteta and Edu. You might not have had as much money as you thought, but did you spend it in the best way? Probably not. January, it told me everything. Arteta is very specific about I wanted a striker. Declan Rice is saying, I hope we sign players because the gaffer's playing Tierney left wing. Those above Mikel Arteta, when you didn't act in January, you lot told me everything. You didn't really want to get over the line. Ultimately, Arteta's going to have to die by the high standards that he's quote unquote set. I do think there's a lot of agenda-driven drivel. But ultimately, this will be the 4th year. And again, like even going back to what we said about Sesko, I think in an ideal world, many people would give someone like Sesko time. Like if we made that 2-3 years ago, but it's a win now mode. Fans are impatient. They're very hungry. And especially with how last season panned out, which is probably our worst kind of domestic season of the 3. He needs to get over the line, man. Like I can understand why people want to persist with the guy. I can understand why people ultimately think, you know what, you're not the guy. And I can also understand why people say, you know what, Arteta, fair enough for getting us to this point, but can you get over the line? And I do feel like some of our fans, obviously you want to see Arteta do it, but it's that at some point you have to put the club first. Not everybody's going to make it. Arteta might not be the guy to get us over the line in the same way Arteta himself. Tierney was our first choice left back once upon a time. Then it became Zinni. Then it became whatever. There's an evolution. And at some point, then, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I hope we do it this year, but there has to be questions. But reality is, I personally feel the club, if we have a season like this, like maybe not necessarily the context is, but 2 semi-finals, going out the FA Cup and finishing second, I don't think the Cronky sack Mikel Arteta, if I'm genuinely honest with you. So we'll have to see, man. Let's hope we can get over the line. And above all, Dan, I want the players to. I feel sorry for these players, man. I've seen them run into the ground. I've seen players that I don't believe in step up. I've seen a young Lewis-Skelly step up. I've seen players rush back from injuries. It needs to get over the line. And like what all 3 of you have said, bro, we need to get some parades and stuff, man, because I know winning's not everything. We're not entitled, but we're never on the right side of fine margins. Like you've got Mikel Arteta coming out after the Champions League, and I do think it was a bit sour. Emotions were high, saying we were the best team in the Champions League. That's great, but you asked Luis Enrique, would he swap places? You have your answer. So let's try to get over the line, Dan, man.
Mate, he's got to deliver. The last 2 super chats of the day have come from Femi. It says, this is the most balanced, intelligent and unbiased panelist I've seen in a while. Keep it up, guys. Thanks so much, man. I try to deliver. I try to bring you some of the best out there and put them on the panel together. So big up to you, man. I hope you appreciate it. And big up to you guys as well. AMT, Rory, how long more is your limit?
Basically, how long will I give Arteta?
Okay.
I don't put a limit on it. I said the exact thing last summer. Context is always the key. So like last summer, I didn't say, well, next season, if he doesn't win anything, he goes. Because I said, if we get to a Champions League final or we come close to the league, and I think with the injuries we've had this season, it's tough. The one thing I always think is when we have conversations about Arteta, it's almost like no one speaks about the flip side of getting rid of Arteta in the sense that it could get worse. No one ever considers that it could get worse if Arteta goes, that actually he's like overperforming with the squad he's got. And yet the thing is, the people that don't rate Arteta, they'll also tell you that Havertz is shit, that Odegaard is shit, that Martinelli is shit, all the players are shit. And yet we're somehow getting to the point that we're getting to, which is not where we want to be, but it's close. And so it's like, if you lose Arteta, maybe you're losing the guy that's getting the best out of that group, and maybe it gets worse. And maybe you end up like Man United, where fair enough, you're winning trophies as tokens, which is great, but the overall trajectory is downwards. So I feel like sometimes people should just be cautious. The grass isn't always greener.
Okay. Do you appreciate, though, Rory, as well, that if it was to get somebody in, that it could actually go the other way, and it could be like, no, you know what I'm saying? So you're right to say that in terms of we could get somebody in and think, oh my God, we're now fifth or whatever, I don't know, whatever we are. But also it could be like, and this is why the right appointment's got to be. When people say to me, would you replace Arteta? I will say, give me some names. And if they say De Zerbi, I'll say, no, I'll keep Arteta. If they say Graham Potter, obviously I'll keep Arteta. But if you're going to give me somebody who has got a CV that says I can win, Hansi Flick or whoever it be, and obviously it's got to be realistic, then of course I'd have that conversation about it as well, because I think that there could be the chance of us going to that next level. But I think it's got to be who the manager is, to be fair. Eric says injuries this season have come from no rotation and overplaying. The excuse of injuries as if every single team didn't have them is pure copium. Arteta has won 2 games in the FA Cup with his own team. To be fair, the FA, let's just not even be around the bush. The domestic cups have been awful. Absolutely.
That might have bought in some time over the years as well, if we picked up some of these like more trophies as well, because that's where I think the frustration is coming from. And for me, again, injuries play a part, Dan, but we've seen 3 years now. We've seen years where we've had one injury like Saliba. I know Tomiyasu, Timber and Partey were all injured, but that was a relatively clean run. And then we've had seasons like the one that's just gone, which we can nitpick, but the bottom line is we have not got over the line. How do we get over the line? That is for the club to answer and do it, man. Like, that's where we're at now. Like, that's where we're at. Because there's 3 different years, the same results where there's nothing to celebrate. And the players and the manager say they want silverware. Go out there and get it. Let's hope we do that, man.
No, listen, you're absolutely bang on, man. Absolutely bang on. So now, big up to you. Look, I've got to be honest, it's been a great show. I've really enjoyed it. And do you know what? I like getting different opinions on, and that's what we've got on this panel today. So big up, man. Rory, what you got coming up, mate? How can people follow you?
Just Rory Talks Football in most places, going live most days on YouTube, and then obviously pumping out TikTok videos as well. So
love that. Babs, what you got coming up, bro?
Transfers every single day, or every other day at least, on the Basketball YouTube channel.
Do you do your 5 things we learned about transfers today?
I did a 5 stats about Sesko, if you want to watch it, but I don't think the chat does want it. I do Gyokeres on his own, don't worry. I'll get you, man, as well.
Yeah. Make sure you do that, man.
I'm actually working on that, to be fair.
You'll get hate, man.
It's in the works.
You'll get hate. Oh, why are you not doing this on Gyokeres as well? Rah. That's what will happen, man. You know, you can't please everyone, bro. DG, what you got coming up, bro?
I'm going live at 2:30, and that's about me, man. I'm just making my rounds. I'm going to be on Rancy's stream at 1. Obviously, I've been here and I was with Harry Simu earlier. So, yeah, just making the rounds on this Friday, man.
Come on, man. You're always plugging away, man. Big up to you. Make sure you do me a favor. Hit the like button, people. Make sure you're following Match Bingo as well. And we're going to send you over to Deji's channel. Deji and Don are going at it at the moment. So, it'll be proper worth a discussion over there when them two go at it. Pause. It's quite funny. So, trust me. Go and show some love over there. And make sure you're following the panel. Love to everyone. We'll see you next time. We're out of here. Laters.